Okay, so in the chart, again, I would appreciate it if you used it for the first problem, but then after the first problem, if you hate it, then that's fine. You can just not use it, ignore it. So we are solving -2 times x minus 3. We're simplifying it. I apologize, not solving. So the first thing is what number or numbers, it could be multiple, are we distributing? Not what are we distributing to, what are we actually distributing? So we want to look in front of the parentheses, what number is in front of those parentheses? Yeah, Brianna? -2. So we are distributing -2. Oops, and we are distributing -2 to the x and to that -3. So let's do that. -2 times x would be -2x. And -2 times -3, negative and a minus is going to change to a +6. Do you see any like terms between -2x and 6? No, so we're going to skip that part. And our final answer would just be -2x plus 6. And that's all we can do. Unless it was equal to something, or unless I told you x equals something, that's all we're able to do there. Okay, let's look at the next problem. So 5 times x minus 4 plus 2x minus 3. So what number are we distributing? Gavin, what number are we distributing in that second one? 5, I agree. Now here's the mistake some people make. We are only taking that 5 and distributing it to the x and the -4. We are not allowed to take that 5 and bring it all the way over to the 2x, or take that 5 and bring it all the way over to the 3. Okay, so when we distribute, we have 5x. 5 times -4 would give us -20. And we do end up having some like terms here. We have 5x, and if we go back and look at the original problem, we also have 2x there. And then our constants were -20. And if we go back over here in our original, we also have -3. So those would also be like terms. So when we combine those, 5x and 2x would be 7x. And -20 and -3 would give us -23. And again, we can't do anything else with that because 7x and -23 are not like. All right, I want you to try 2 of them on your own, and I'm going to circle them. I want you to try the 3 plus 2 times x minus 5 and 4 times x plus 1 minus 5. I'll give you like 5 or so minutes to work on those 2. I'm skipping number 4 for a reason. We'll come back to it. Okay, so on the third one, this is a huge topic of discussion yesterday in my third period. Are we distributing 2 or are we distributing 5? So 2 is obvious where I got it because it's right there. Why do you think some people would have said we are going to distribute 5? Where do you think that 5 would have come from? Allie, where do you think it would come from? Yeah, adding that front 3 and 2 together to get 5 to distribute. So let me explain why we should not do that. Because you want to distribute 2, okay, not 5. Technically, this 2 is being multiplied by x and -5. And if we're following order of operations, we want to go parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division comes before addition and subtraction. So we want to do that multiplication, then we want to add that 3 at the very end. So let's go ahead and distribute a 2, not a 5. So that would give us 2x minus 10. And we do have like terms, so we have 2x, and then we have 2 constants. We have the -10, and then if we go back and we want to make sure to include that +3. So when we combine those, we would get an answer of 2x minus 7 for that one. Do you have a question? Are you good? I saw your hand like over here. You're good. Okay. And then the last one, we're distributing a 4 to get 4x plus 4. Again, we do have like terms. 4x doesn't, but 4 has a like term with this minus 5. So when we combine those, we would get 4x minus 1 as our answer for that one. So any questions on 3 or 5? Okay, why do you think I skipped number 4? Has the what's it called? The subtraction sign. Words are hard. Yes, it has the subtraction sign. Specifically, it has a subtraction sign like right in front of that set of parentheses. And just glancing at it, it doesn't look like there's a number in front of the parentheses. Oh, but there is. There's a 1. So if we're talking about what number we're distributing, right in front of those parentheses, I'm not going to say I'm distributing a 1 because we want to pay attention to the sign. I'm distributing -1. And that's extremely important. If I were to pick a place that most people mess this up at, it's right here. When there's a minus sign in front of those parentheses, we need to make sure that we're distributing the minus sign. So when we distribute that -1, -1 times -x, a negative times a negative is going to give us a positive x or 1x. Both of those are acceptable. And then -1 times +5 would change that to a -5. You got to be so careful there. So careful. And then we do have some like terms. So we have our x, and then we have -5. And we go back here, we haven't included that +2. So we have x, and then -5 plus 2 would be -3 as that final answer there. So that was a little bit more complicated, but we're going to do another one of those in a second. Okay, we're going to skip the one right after that, and I'll leave this up here like this. There we go. I want to look at together one more. We're going to look at this one that says 3 minus 2 times x plus 1 plus 5x plus 4, minus 4, excuse me. What do you notice that's different? Gavin? It does have 2 sets of parentheses. So that means we're not distributing one number. We're going to distribute 2 numbers. The first number we're going to distribute is -2 because of that minus sign in front. What's the second number we're going to distribute? Go ahead, Allie. Yeah, it's +1. No, you're good, Kendrick. +1. How do you know that? Because it's like invisible, yeah. There's nothing in front of those parentheses. If there's nothing in front, just like when there's no coefficient, we're going to assume that it's 1. So let's distribute the -2. So that would give us -2x plus -2. And if we distribute the 1, that's going to leave us with 5x minus 4. And let's write our like terms. So our like terms are -2x and 5x. And then our constant terms would be -2 minus 4. And there's actually another one. If you go back at the very front of this problem, there was a 3. So if we combine -2x and 5x, that would give us 3x. And then -2 plus -4 would be -6. And -6 plus 3 would leave us with a -3 to add to the end. So 3x minus 3 would be that all simplified. Oops, I'm going to do that. That's ugly. Okay. What time is it? Ooh, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys 7 minutes, 6 minutes. Maybe 7. I want you to do this top one that says 2 minus x minus 9, and then the very last problem that starts with a negative and then has an x squared in parentheses. So that one that we skipped to minus x minus 9, and then the very last problem. I'm going to give you about 6 or 7 minutes to do that. All right, so the first one that I had you do was the one we skipped, which said 2 minus x minus 9. And it didn't have anything in front of those parentheses. So remember, we assume that it's a 1, and it does have a minus sign. So we are going to distribute -1. So when we distribute that -1, it would be -1x or -x. And then -1 times -9 would change to a +9. So we do have some like terms. So we have -1x, and then my constant terms would be 9, and then we have that 2 out in front of the parentheses. So if we were to combine those, we would get -x or -1x plus 11 for that first one. So make sure that you're not forgetting about all of the stuff that's not inside the parentheses, because we do have to include those in the combining like terms step if you haven't already. Okay, the last one, which in my opinion was the most difficult one, I'll be honest. So we are distributing -1 right in front of that first set of parentheses. What's in front of the other parentheses? Doesn't necessarily need to be a number. Could be not a number. Oops. Everybody look there. What is literally touching the front of those parentheses? Yeah, x. And then in front of the x is what sign? A negative, yeah. So it's -x is actually what we're distributing for the second set of parentheses. So if we distribute this -1, we're going to get -x squared plus 3x minus 2. Notice how all three of those signs changed because we're multiplying by -1. The second set of parentheses, this is what I was talking about earlier. In case you didn't know, x times x is going to be x squared, specifically -x squared, because we have a negative times a positive. And then -x times -4 would change to +4. And then we want to make our like terms. So -x squared and -x squared would be a group. Our second group would be our x's, which it looks like there's just 3x. And then our third group would be -2 and +4, those like terms. And then all we have to do left is combine them. So I have -1 and -1 would give me -2x squared plus 3x, and then -2 plus 4 would be +2. Let me make that a little bigger for you. There we go. So your final answer there would be -2x squared plus 3x plus 2.